Welcome to Murray Montgomery's Lone Star Diary. Murray is a published author and syndicated newspaper columnist. He writes nonfiction stories about the Old West, most of them about cowboys and pioneers to the Lone Star State. Other true stories with an Old West flavor from all parts of America will also be included from time to time. Murray has been writing for some 20 years for the online magazine, Texas Escapes. So sit back and relax, and enjoy these true stories of old Texas. Now, here's Murray.
Hey everybody, glad to be back with you on this third episode of the new podcast Lone Star Diary. The first two have been picked up by some phone apps, and we've applied for a lot more. And we have folks from even as far away as India listening, and I don't know why, but I guess they want to know a little bit about the Old West and about the things that happened here in Texas back then. This new one, we're going to call it Early Cattleman Saved Texas from Financial Ruin. And it goes like this. After the Civil War, Texas and the rest of the South were in a bad economic situation. The war had drained the resources of the defeated states, and when the soldiers returned home, they found it extremely hard to make a living. But Texas had an untapped resource roaming wild on the open range. Longhorn cattle provided an industry that grew to become the largest in the state. Lavaca County, located in south-central Texas, became a major cattle producer along with the rest of Texas. In his book, History of Lavaca County, writer Paul C. Badel writes that the open-ranged and the low-priced land in the county quickly attracted cattlemen to the area. By 1870, cattlemen in Lavaca County numbered 56,309. Prominent cattlemen at the time were Lew B. Allen, W. J. Moore, J. M. Bennett, Sel West, Ike West, George West, Bill Gentry, and Willis McCutcheon. The well-known cattleman Shanghai Pierce is believed to have put together a herd of mavericks in Lavaca County. Cowboys working for Pierce rode the area around Big Sandy, searching for wild brush cattle. That part of the county was thinly settled and was known for having large numbers of strays. The animals were very wild and would lie up in the brush during the day, coming out at night to graze. Pierce's men would wait until early morning to begin rounding them up, and a good month's work would usually be about 1,100 head. Cattle from Lavaca County were driven up the trail to Kansas markets in Abilene, Dodge City, and other towns as well. From the end of the Civil War in 1865 until 1885, large herds of cattle were sent up the trail. The trek from Lavaca County started at the small settlement of Bovine on Brushy Creek, and then moved west, passing by Peach Creek and Gonzales. The path led on to Austin, and from there to the old Chisholm Trail, eventually to end up in Kansas. According to the history of Lavaca County, in 1870, it took A.E. Shesky 64 days to drive a herd of 1,000 head up the trail to Abilene, Kansas. In 1874, cattlemen Leo Tucker, John May, and Joel Bennett drove 3,000 cattle to Abilene. And these are only a couple of the known drives. Many other smaller herds were taken to market, but no records exist as to who drove them or the number of cattle involved. After the open ranges were fenced, the cattle industry began to slump, only to revive again, and by 1900, records indicate that the number of cattle in Lavaca County alone exceeded 60,000. The history of the old cattle drive seems like scenes from movies such as Lonesome Dove or Red River. But the real cowboy's job was far from glamorous. The work was monotonous and included long days in the saddle. These were the men who had just fought a long and bloody Civil War. Hard-working cowboys who did what they had to do in order to survive, and in the process, they brought Texas out of a depression and into economic wealth. Well, friends, I hope you enjoyed this third episode of Lone Star Diary. We're getting a little better at this new program that we're having to operate on the fly, but I know you'll bear with us, and we appreciate it greatly. You know, the old cowboy started off so many years ago. Actually, the first cowboys came out of Mexico, and at least that's what I learned. And they brought their trade on into Texas, and the Texas cowboys picked it up. And there were cattle ranches that were thriving before the Civil War. But when that war came into play, all these guys left. And in the middle of all that, Texas began to suffer. Indian raids and really no protection on the frontier. And so after the war was over with, you know, Texas was under military rule just like the rest of the southern states. And the men came home and there just wasn't any work. There wasn't anything. And that's when somebody got the bright idea of going and rounding up all these cattle. Because people in the east were hungry for beef, and it all had to come from Texas and the surrounding area. So these guys, they went to work and they did what they had to do, and much money was brought into the state. If you go to the town of Gonzales and take a drive amongst all those beautiful old homes, and the majority of those homes were built with cattle money. So I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll be doing some more and pretty soon, because I need to get these episodes built up where these apps will pick them up and put them online and put them out where other people hopefully can enjoy them. So I hope you enjoyed it, as I said before, and hang in there, friends, and study about the old cowboys. It's a mighty interesting thing, and we still have them. And you know, if you enjoy rodeos, or if you've never seen one, check one out, because it'll take you back in time to how things were back then. So I'll be saying goodbye to you for tonight, folks, and I'll be getting ready for another episode shortly. Goodbye.